for a super long time, I wanted to make an assassin pen. I've had the hardest time figuring out how I was going to do that. But I figured it out, and I'm going to show you. First, we'll start with these supplies, and you'll need these tools, including a T-pin. And before you even go trying to attempt anything else, it does have to be a fat Sharpie, just like this one. Removing this felt tip can get messy, so I advise caution. And the easiest way to get these Sharpies apart is to basically rock the top back and forth by pressing on either side, and you'll feel it loosen up. And when you pull it apart, be careful of that giant inkwell in there. You're done with these parts, you can get rid of them. I recommend wiping down the other parts with some kind of solvent rag if you've got it. Really, a paper towel would probably work fine, but just get some of that ink off of there. Now, a nice sharp pair of scissors is going to make this next part easy. You're going to bore a hole through the back side of the gray part of the Sharpie. The center's already marked out for you here. Just take your scissors, spin them around till you get a hole in the back side. It's actually going to be a pretty big hole, so don't be afraid about going overboard with this. Next up, we're going to take our star clip and we're going to straighten one side of it. You want this as straight as you can get it. You're going to cut about 3 inches off of one side of it. Save the rest for later, you're going to need it. And now we're going to make our firing pin. Come down about 1/3 of the way from one end of this wire. We're going to make a loop around the needle nose pliers. You're going to want the loop in the center of this wire to be big enough to accommodate your rubber band. You'll see why in a few minutes, but you don't want to make this hole too small. On the long end, we're going to put a hook in it. It's going to go just past 90 degrees. You want a little more than 90 degrees here. And this hook actually has to be cut small enough to be able to fit into this hole. So take a measurement here, get an idea, cut off the excess off the end of this hook. It should be able to fit inside the hole in the back gray part of the Sharpie without a lot of fuss. Now you might find yourself remaking this firing pin several times as the length of this hook dictates how much of the ink cartridge sticks out the front of the Sharpie. You'll see what I mean in a minute, but don't be surprised if you have to make this firing pin several times to get it the right length so that this device can be written with and fired. Next, we're going to feed our rubber band through that loop in the firing pin. Just make the rubber band into a loop, feed one end through the loop in the firing pin, and get it even. Next, center the firing pin on the top part of the Sharpie and capture the rubber bands with your fingers. You want that firing pin right in the center of that Sharpie. Now you're going to reconnect the Sharpie back together with the rubber band inside of it. This is going to take some force, and there are actually 2 lines on the Sharpie top. You're going to go to the first one, and then you're going to cut your rubber bands, and then you're going to proceed setting it and pressing it in until it reaches that second line. It should pop when you get to that second line. Now we're going to make our tool for arming. Basically just want to take this star clip and turn it into a handle with a long shaft on one end. You should be able to exert some force on the end of it. On the other end, we're going to create a loop in the wire. And this loop is going to actually reach inside the Sharpie and go around that slightly more than 90-degree hook that you made in the firing pin. So this thing is actually going to go inside, capture that hook, and you're going to use that to pull the firing pin on that rubber band outside the back of the Sharpie. So this thing has to be properly sized. Again, this is something that's going to take you some trial and error, but once you get it right, it will be able to go inside the hole in the back of the Sharpie and slide over the little hook that you made at the back of your firing pin and pull that thing out. Next, we're going to make our projectile. We're going to take our Bic Click pen, and all we need out of this is the ink cartridge inside. The rest of the pen we can put to the side for a later project. We need about 1.5 inches of string. Preferably, this is the kind of cloth, soft string that you can take apart easily. This is going to basically be the feathers on the back of an arrow. It's going to help keep your projectile straight. Get your tape prepared and grab your couple pieces of string, and we're actually going to tape these onto the back end of the ink cartridge, like so. You want the ends to be as even as possible, and you want to tape this down real nice and tight. You don't want these strands flying off anywhere. I found that the accuracy is actually improved if you stick a T-pin through these strands and make them a little bit fluffy. It makes it more like feathers. Now your projectile is ready to go. I'd be lying if I said this next part was easy, but with enough practice you'll get it. Take your tool, hook it around the hook on the firing pin, bring it outside, and hook that hook onto the back of the Sharpie. So now your rubber band, as you can see here, is pulled in tension, and that firing pin is holding all that tension on that hook at the back of the Sharpie. This part is also not that easy, but you will get the hang of it. You're going to set the hole in the back of the ink cartridge onto the shaft of the firing pin. And once you've done that, it's ready for launch. Overall, this thing's pretty powerful. Point of note, as you're trying to load the cartridge into the launcher, do not look down the end of it as you're trying to put the cartridge onto the shaft that it rides on before it launches. You can lose an eye that way. You can write with this, might be a little bit sloppy, but for the most part, you can put the cap on it. Looks like a regular Sharpie, and then when you want to shoot it, all you gotta do is aim. In case it's not clear from the rest of the video, you fire by pressing up on the hook and disengaging it from the back of the Sharpie. Thanks for watching. If you found that fun and useful, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be uploading more stupid office weapon videos in the future. I'll show you how to do it all. Thanks.